Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Cooking Rules with Jules. That's me. My name is Julia Pontanis, and I'm here to help make your kitchen experience easy and healthy. So today, for your recipe of the week, I'm going to be making a pumpkin basil chicken curry. And the reason why I'm using pumpkin is because I have a can of canned pumpkin that is about to expire and I don't want that to happen. Food waste is terrible. So hopefully this will be something nutritious. If you have excess pumpkin, you can use it too in your cooking. And if you don't have the pumpkin, that's okay. You can just do the basil curry part. All right, let's get started. All right, so here's our ingredients for today. You're gonna need a clove of garlic, about a quarter of an onion. I use a sweet onion, an eggplant. I used half of mine yesterday. I'm gonna use the majority of this today, the rest of it up. Zucchini, so this was a really large zucchini. I'm gonna use probably about the majority of that, 3/4 of it. I have here some baby Yukon Gold potatoes. I also have a sprig of basil. I have about 4 ounces of chicken. Of course, I'm going to need olive oil, canned pumpkin if you have it, and then of course coconut milk. Now this one I found and I really like it because if we look at the ingredients, it only contains water, coconut, and guar gum, which is a natural stabilizer. It actually comes from a plant, so we don't have any of the preservatives in there that you find in normal coconut. I also have a curry powder. This one I believe is more like a Jamaican curry, but that's okay. I enjoy the taste anyways. And then if you happen to have some cardamom, I would highly recommend that. This one is used in a lot of savory Indian flavors and actually in baking. If you think holiday time baking, cardamom is one of those surprising guest appearance spices. So that's all you're going to need as far as ingredients today. And I'm going to pan over. You will need a mixing bowl, 1 large pan, and then also a baking sheet. I lined mine with parchment paper because we are going to make this really easy with the veggies and roast them and then saute the chicken and then add in the rest of our ingredients. So step 1 is to preheat the oven. I'm going to go ahead and set this at 400 degrees and I'm going to start to dice up my vegetables into equal size portions. That way they cook evenly. So I'm going to try and keep these probably, I would say maybe inch cubes. See, by I'm demonstrating my fingers. Mostly because we're talking about the potato here. So I'm going to try and keep these potatoes cut into quarters, and then I'm going to match the size of the chop of my vegetable so that way it cooks evenly throughout. Now that I have all of my vegetables chopped up, what I'm going to do, as you can see, I have those zucchini cut into little pizza squares, and they're approximately the same size as all the other veggies here. So we're all about the same size. I'm going to put them into my mixing bowl and toss them with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. Just a quick note, zucchini, this is an eggplant. Eggplant is like a little sponge and will absorb a ton of whatever you put on there. So just be sure when you're tossing that these guys aren't on top, that perhaps you layered it in first and then toss it up. Now that my veggies are tossed with olive oil and have a nice coat on them and they're seasoned, I am going to take them over to my pan. We're going to come this way. And I'm going to go ahead and dump them out onto the parchment paper and roast them on 400 until they start to get a little bit browned on the outside. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. In the meantime, I'm going to start to cook my chicken. Now for the basil, this is an actual technique. I do not know the name of it, but it is a cooking technique. What you do is you lay each basil leaf on top of each other once of course you've washed it and dried it. Then you roll it up like a cigar and cut it long ways. So as you can see, I have like these little strips. It just makes chopping basil much easier, any herb really. And I'm going to keep mine in long strips. If you want from here, you can dice them up. It doesn't really matter. It's the preference of your personal taste. The next step is to get your chicken started. So what I went ahead and did was heated my pan over medium heat and poured enough olive oil in there just to coat the bottom of the pan. And actually, I'm going to start with my basil first. So I'm going to take my basil and give it a nice little saute. The sizzle is loud. I know, I love the sizzle. That's my favorite. And I'm going to let this become aromatic. And what I mean by aromatic is you're going to start to be able to smell the basil release its essential oils out of the pan. So once I have my basil starting to get nice and sauteed, I'm going to take my chicken. And what I did here, this is cut into strips. So I'm going to lay it out over my pan pretty evenly and brown it on each side. And of course I'm going to season with salt and pepper. We'll get that going. Still no tripod, clearly. This is making life a little difficult. I promise you guys, it's getting there. Okay, so I'm going to get my chicken into my pan, and I'm going to let it cook pretty thoroughly. Well, just till it's brown, because it's going to simmer in the coconut milk and the pumpkin and curry. But I'm just going to place all these little guys in here, and we'll get to the next step shortly. All right, I'm going to stand back here so you can hear me over the sizzle, but as you can see, I'll pan in. I'm lightly browned on one side of my chicken. I flipped it over, and so now I'm going to add in my onions and my garlic. Why now? Because onions and garlic will burn. Actually, so your herbs, but basil tends to be pretty resilient. And I don't want to have burnt garlic or burnt onions in my curry. That's terrible. So I'm going to season this with salt and pepper. And then once that happens and these little guys start to get translucent, I'm going to start to add in my coconut milk and my canned pumpkin. Okay, onions and garlic are looking good. So now I'm going to pour about a half a can of this into my pan, and I've turned the heat way down because I don't want it to boil like that, obviously. I want it to just come to a nice little simmer and peel up all those delicious brown parts on the bottom of the pan. The same is going to go for the pumpkin. Hello, I'm looking at coconut milk. I'm going to use about a half a can. Also remember, everyone, I'm only cooking for me. So that sounds a little depressing. Anyways, I'm only making a meal for myself. If you're making a meal for your whole family, then of course will want to double all of these recipes. So use the whole can and the whole can. But for me, it's just going to be half and half. And then I'll figure out something exciting to do with all of this later. So I'm going to get all of my pumpkins stirred in here. And of course, I'm going to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, I taste as I go along because you can always add more salt, but you most certainly cannot take it out. Oh yeah, that is looking really delicious. So once I have this all mixed in, I'm going to add in my curry powder. Again, this is up to your personal preference. I happen to like a lot of curry, so I'm going to add some curry powder, taste it, add some curry powder, taste it, and then go from there. My curry and my cardamom are added to taste with salt, of course, and is now simmering. So while this is simmering, and I want this on a really low heat, and I'm just going to keep scraping the edges, making sure I don't get a film or burning the bottom. I'm going to wait for my roasted veggies. So once those are done, I still probably have at least another 10 minutes. I'm going to dump them in here and simmer a little bit longer. So the beautiful thing about these simmer style dishes, especially with the garlic in there, is the longer these babies cook, the more those aromas open up and come out and become flavorful. So I am really excited for this particular dish. All right, let's peek in this oven and see how our veggies are doing. And these are looking just about right. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out. And I actually started a little side project of some pumpkin bread. to use up the rest of my pumpkins. So there you go. Anyways, so I'm going to take my spatula, I'm going to take all my veggies and return them back to my pan and let them simmer again for about another 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, so I have all my veggies in my pan and I'm still simmering on low. And as you can see here, this is like a really thick and kind of hearty curry. So you could most certainly serve this over rice if you wanted to. That would most certainly not make it paleo, but neither do the potatoes. So remember, if there's any ingredient here that doesn't work for you, you can always substitute and add something else. But this eggplant and chicken and potatoes and basil make it incredibly meaty along with the chicken, and as well as the pumpkin adds you a whole nother nutrition serving of vegetables. So here you have something incredibly nutrient dense. I will say that I would use whole fat coconut milk because the coconut milk light kind of alters that really amazing savory deliciousness. All right, everyone, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you come up with something equally as creative in your kitchen and use up all of those delicious canned things before the next fall season rolls around. So until next Wednesday with your weekly recipe, which again, it's gonna be a surprise because I don't know what I'm making yet. But also make sure you subscribe. That way you get updates every time a new video posts, and also check out my Instagram, which is the same, which is Cooking Rules with Jules, and similar content, a little bit more. If you're a foodie picture person, then it's your spot. See you soon.